When you make yourself available to everyone at every moment, you unknowingly give away the most precious resources you have: your time, your focus, and your energy. And here is the truth. People rarely value what comes too easily. When you are always there, always answering, always ready to help, the power of your presence fades into the background. It's like a song played on repeat until it becomes noise instead of music. Boundaries are what turn that noise back into something meaningful, something that commands attention. There, when you learn to draw lines, not out of selfishness, but out of respect for yourself, people begin to notice the weight of your yes and the importance of your presence. Boundaries are not about shutting people out. They are about deciding who and what is worth letting in. Think about it: when you set limits, you are teaching others how to treat you. If you answer every call at midnight, the world assumes your sleep isn't important. If you respond to every demand, the world believes your time is free. But the moment you pause, the moment you hold back and protect your space, everything shifts. Suddenly, your presence becomes a privilege, not a guarantee. And that is when respect begins to grow. It's not easy at first, because many of us are conditioned to think availability equals kindness. But real kindness doesn't come from exhausting yourself. It comes from being whole enough to give with intention. When you spread yourself too thin, what you offer loses depth. But when you protect your energy, the moments you choose to give become powerful, memorable, and meaningful. People don't remember that you were always there. They remember the times you showed up fully, with clarity and strength. The truth is, setting boundaries requires courage. It requires the willingness to disappoint others in order to remain true to yourself. But once you do, something remarkable happens. The right people respect you more, and the wrong people fade away. And both outcomes are gifts. When you stop being available to everyone, you don't lose value, you gain it. Because value has always been tied to rarity, and your presence is no different. It's time to stop giving yourself away so freely, and start living in a way that makes your time, your attention, and your presence matter again. When you are always available, their people stop seeing you. They stop noticing the effort you give, the sacrifices you make, the time you invest. It's a strange truth, but familiarity often breeds blindness. The more you say yes, the more invisible you become. But the moment you step back, when you create space, people begin to realize what they had. Respect is often born in absence. When you are not there to pick up every call, when you are not the one constantly showing up, suddenly your presence carries weight. Think of it like this: when something is always within reach, it becomes ordinary. But the moment it is out of reach, it becomes valuable. The same happens with your time and your energy. If you are constantly available, others take it for granted. They assume you'll always be there. But when you step back, when you allow your silence to speak, people begin to pay attention. They reflect, they miss, they realize. And in that realization, respect grows. It's not about playing games, it's about understanding human nature. Scarcity has always increased value. Gold is precious not because it is everywhere, but because it is rare. Your availability works the same way. If you offer it endlessly, it loses value. If you protect it and share it with intention, it becomes priceless. This shift changes how others treat you, but more importantly, it changes how you see yourself. Some may not like it when you pull back. They may resist, complain, or even accuse you of being different. But that's because they were comfortable consuming your time without appreciating it. When you stop feeding that pattern, you force them to see your worth. The ones who truly care will respect your space. The ones who don't were never meant to stay. And here is where the transformation happens. Once people respect your absence, they begin to respect your presence even more. Your words carry more weight, your actions mean more, and your time feels like a gift rather than an obligation. That is the power of stepping back. That is the hidden strength in no longer being endlessly available. When you stop being everywhere, you finally become someone worth noticing. Availability is not free, it comes with a cost. Every time you say yes, you spend a little piece of your energy. Every time you drop what you're doing to please someone else, you trade away a moment of your own future. And if you never pause to measure that cost, you'll wake up one day drained, wondering why you feel empty even though you've given so much. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is survival. It is understanding that your energy is the fuel for everything you dream to achieve, and if you give it all away carelessly, you will have nothing left for yourself. Think of your energy as an investment. When you invest it wisely, into your goals, into your growth, into the relationships that truly matter, the returns are extraordinary. You create progress, fulfillment, and momentum. But when you scatter it everywhere, into gossip, into demands that drain you, into people who only take without giving back, you are pouring water into a desert. Nothing grows there. That is why protecting your energy is protecting your future. It is choosing to stop leaking power into places that don't deserve it. The truth is, not everyone deserves access to you. Not every situation deserves your time. And not every battle deserves your fight. When you stop being endlessly available, you create space to focus. You shift from reacting to life to building it intentionally. Suddenly, you have clarity. Suddenly, you feel lighter there. And the energy you once wasted begins to push you forward, instead of holding you down. This is when transformation begins. You'll notice your creativity returning, your confidence growing there, your vision sharpening. You'll see opportunities that were always there, but hidden beneath the noise of constant distraction there. Protecting your energy is like cleaning a window that has been covered in dust. You finally see clearly. Yes, some people will call you distant. Some will think you've changed. And they're right. You have. You've stopped living for everyone else, and you've started living with purpose. And that choice will shape your future in ways endless availability never could. When you guard your energy, you guard the life you are meant to create. There is a big difference between living to please and living to lead. When you are always available, there you fall into the trap of pleasing everyone around you. You say yes when you want to say no. You agree to things that drain you, simply because you fear disappointing someone. And little by little, there you lose your own direction. You become a passenger in your own life, carried by the demands of others, instead of guided by your own vision. But when you begin to guard your time, when you stop being constantly available, everything changes. That is the moment you shift from pleasing to leading. Leadership doesn't begin with titles or recognition. It begins with decisions. It begins the day you say, "This is what matters to me, and this is where my energy will go." When you stop scattering your availability, your choices become intentional. You are no longer being pulled in every direction, you are setting the direction. And people notice. They may not say it out loud at first, but they begin to respect the strength it takes to choose your path. The truth is, those who always try to please everyone eventually please no one. Their presence loses weight because it is stretched too thin. But those who lead, those who dare to say no, their yes becomes powerful. When you give your time, it means something. When you show up, it carries impact. People don't just see you as someone who is always there. They see you as someone who chooses where to be, and that choice inspires them. This shift also changes how you see yourself. You no longer define your worth by how many people you can keep happy. You define it by how true you are to your values, how consistent you are with your vision, and how boldly you protect what matters most. And the moment you step into that mindset, you stop chasing approval and start creating influence. When you stop being available to please, you start being available to lead. And that is where real transformation begins. When you are always available, you end up giving small pieces of yourself to everyone. A quick reply here, a rushed moment there, a half-hearted conversation while your mind is somewhere else. And slowly, what you offer loses depth because you are spread too thin. But the moment you pull back, when you stop trying to be everywhere at once, you give yourself permission to be fully present in fewer places. That is when your presence becomes a gift. There is something powerful about presence. When you are fully engaged there, when your mind and your heart are in the same place as your body, people feel it. They don't just hear your words, they feel your energy, your focus, your sincerity there. And that is far more valuable than being half there in 100 different moments. When you stop giving fragments, you start giving wholeness. And that wholeness is what leaves an impact. Think of the people you truly remember in your life. It's not the ones who were constantly around, but the ones who showed up with depth. The ones who made you feel seen, heard, and valued. That those moments stay with you because they carried presence. And that is exactly what you give when you stop making yourself endlessly available. You replace quantity with quality. This shift doesn't just change how others experience you. It changes how you experience life. You begin to savor moments instead of rushing through them. You find yourself listening more, noticing more, appreciating more. The conversations become richer, the connections deeper, and the time more meaningful. Suddenly, you are not just existing, you are living. Yes, it means saying no more often. It means some people will see less of you. But the ones who truly matter will gain the best of you. They will receive your full attention, your real energy, your genuine care. And that is worth far more than constant but empty availability. When you stop being everywhere, you gain the power to be fully somewhere. And that is where life begins to transform. The way you make yourself available is directly connected to how you see yourself. If deep down you believe your time isn't valuable, you'll give it away freely. If you believe your energy doesn't matter, you'll let anyone drain it. And if you believe your presence isn't worth much, you'll try to buy approval with endless availability. But when you begin to recognize your own worth, everything changes. You start to realize that every minute of your life carries weight, and not everyone deserves access to it. Availability without boundaries is often a reflection of low self-worth. It comes from the hidden belief that saying no might cost you love, respect, or acceptance. But the opposite is true. When you honor yourself enough to say no, when you believe your presence carries value, the world reflects that belief back to you. People start treating you according to the standard you set. And that standard is born from self-worth. When you truly know your value, you stop feeling guilty for resting, for saying no, for protecting your space. You stop apologizing for prioritizing your growth, your dreams, your peace. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into everyone's expectations, because you know that who you are is already enough. And from that place, the way you give your time changes. It's no longer about being available to prove something. It's about being available because you choose to, because it aligns with who you are and where you are going. The transformation doesn't happen overnight. It begins the moment you catch yourself saying yes when your heart is screaming no there. It begins the moment you notice the tiredness that comes from being stretched too thin. And it deepens every time you remind yourself that your life is valuable, your energy is sacred, and your presence is a gift. Each step you take in honoring that truth builds a stronger sense of self-worth, and with it, a new way of living. When you finally see yourself as valuable, that you no longer need to be available to everyone. You only need to be available to what truly matters. And that is when everything changes.